What's up, Home Slices? It's Kiara with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with my review for Season 1, Episode 17 of Love and Marriage Huntsville, titled Marcel and Miss Wanda Have Something. My TV screen won't scroll all the way over so I can read the whole title of the episode, but I'll put it down in the little bar below in the title. So thank you for clicking on this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with someone who you think will enjoy it. For the first time, I can probably be honest with you all and say that this review is going to be fairly quick, because this is the first episode that I have watched of Love and Marriage Huntsville for the, entire series, that I actually felt a little bit bored. I did not really find a lot of excitement or a lot of enjoyment for this particular episode. So I'm just going to breeze through the stuff and we'll talk a little bit more in detail about the stuff that is a little bit more important. So first we see Martell talking to his mama about talking to his daddy. Not much there. Moving on, we see Marcel take his mother-in-law, Miss Wanda, out for lunch and or dinner. And for me, it's like they really didn't get anything accomplished. I feel like all they did was kind of further establish the things that they feel should be going on. Marcel is basically saying, I'm the head of the household and you don't need to take that role. Not only do you not need to take that role, you really aren't qualified to take that role. Miss Wanda says, well, you can't tell me what to run. You expect me to be a maid in your house. And but whenever something comes up that's a problem, I'm going to bring it up. And then there's also conversation about him having 20 girlfriends, where once again, Marcel doesn't confirm or deny that he has 20 girlfriends, even though he's been provided with an opportunity to clear his name. Marcel has definitely cheated on his wife. Maybe not 20, maybe over 20. Who knows? Maybe exactly 20. But there's definitely something going on. So, yeah, Miss Wanda, because she knows how her daughter is taking, again, more liberties than I think is appropriate within their marriage. But once again, they came to some kind of truce, which is clearly not going to work, because in our preview of the next episode, there's going to be another blow up. So we'll see how that goes. All right, y'all. We also see Mel changing her hair up. I hate it. I feel like the short hair suits her a whole bunch. And I do like the very short bob that she has during her confessionals. But anything longer than a short bob on her, I just really don't care for. So, but to each their own. Typically, when women go through things, they like their husband cheating on them, they cut their hair off, very waiting to exhale, Bernadine, but in this case, because her hair is already short, she has to make it longer, which does not have as much of an impact. So, I really don't care for it. I don't care for wigs in general. Whenever I think wigs, I think old women. So the fact that there are young women out here wearing wigs is still like giving me a brain fart. It's just odd. Nothing against women who, wear wigs or anything. But I mean, when the wigs look obvious and you can tell it's a wig and it's like, I'm just not a fan of it. But, I will say that God has blessed me with a full head of long, healthy, beautiful hair. And if he didn't, I'd probably be out here wearing wigs too. So I ain't going to be too judgmental. So moving on. Once again, we have a conversation going on between Maurice and Kimmie regarding a number of things. One of the things that comes up is how Kimmie feels like Maurice does not involve her son in conversations such as, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? And so Kimmie says, I want Mexican. But then Monster is like, well, I want sushi. And so I think Kimmie feels like Maurice has tunnel vision. And with that tunnel vision, she becomes a lower priority. And the way she described it is that first we have Monster. Then second, we have Kaiwa's feelings, because Kaiwa's feelings help to dictate how often Maurice gets to interact with his own son. And then we have Kimmie. So Kimmie is number 3 on the list. And there's a lot of different different conversations that people have regarding whether your wife should, like, priority wise, should come before or after your children. I believe that your spouse comes before your children. That's just a belief that I have, because when you are married to someone, you are one. And this person who is a part of you should have priority over your children, because when your children leave and go on about their lives, you still have this person to take care of. Taking care of your spouse is taking care of yourself. And when you take care of yourself, you have a better ability to take care of your children. If you neglect your spouse, which is in fact neglecting yourself, you have this person that you really haven't put as a priority for 18 years, and then your child leaves the house and you're like, who is this person? So that's just my thoughts. I think that Kimmie does deserve to have higher priority in Maurice's life, and that she doesn't deserve to feel like she's third in line. So, y'all can disagree with me all you want. Put down in the comments below where you think the hierarchy is. Is it your spouse comes before your children? Is it your children comes before your spouse? How do you think that goes? But Kyle definitely shouldn't be up in the priority. Ex-wife ain't even on the list. That's non-negotiable. So I do think that Maurice has tunnel vision, and that everybody else is a casualty of war as long as he can be with his son. And while I admire the fact that he wants to be a part of his son's life, the fact that he is able to tiptoe around Kylie's feelings and then basically kind of disregard Kimmie's is like unhealthy, and could be a marriage killer. I think that this is their first big disagreement as husband and wife, and Kimmie doesn't feel like her voice is really being heard. And I think that Kimmie is right to feel like her husband doesn't necessarily defend her in these situations. I mean, she's entitled to her opinion, and that's her experience, and he can't take that away from her. We'll talk a little bit more about that later when Maurice does something stupid, okay? We'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, next we have the conversation with Martell and his father, whose father's name is Theo, and they are awkward. So it's not funny per se, but you can tell that these two people don't really know each other. They don't really necessarily have a good relationship. A red flag went up for me when Martell said that they were trying to rebuild a relationship until his father got jealous of some of the things that Martell was doing for his mother and not for his dad. That's a red flag for me. You go to jail for 20 years, you're not there for me, and you feel like you have a right to be jealous of what I'm doing for the person who was actually there and not in jail and taking care of me and doing the best that they could to raise me. That's a red flag for me. So I can see why they stopped trying to, build a relationship. But Martell is trying to get past that a little bit. The one thing that I felt like Martell attempted to go deeper into conversation with his father. The fact that Martell is in his mid to late 30s and didn't even know why his dad went to jail in the first place, it's kind of astounding to me. But I feel like their conversation was still very surface level, and that it didn't give me any huge impression about why Martell is the way Martell is and what about his history has led him to the place that he is now. And it's understandable, I will say Martell tried, and I think that his father did the best he could with answering his questions and listening to what Martell had to say. Martell did a good job of having a diplomatic way of saying, you weren't there for me. And I think it might have been more impactful if it was more loaded with emotion, because it came off as very I don't know if Martell has actually made peace with it, but it came off in a way that he did. So instead of saying, you were never there for me and you didn't come to my football games and look at what I made of myself in spite of you. Instead of it being emotionally charged that way, it was more well, you never came to any of my football games. You never did this for me. And this is why I want to be a better, father to my kids. And I feel like Martell has an attitude as if he has already kind of made peace with this upbringing, but I don't know if that's really true, because men do have a hard time showing their emotions, and I think that it is more emotionally accurate for Martell to have that anger, to have that passion behind his words, than for him to just say something like, well, you know, you weren't, in a way that's like less emotionally charged. I hope I'm making sense. Does that make sense? Anyways, like I said, I think it's good that they're trying to rebuild their relationship, and it feels like they're going to take a bunch of baby steps to get there. But I think it might be useful for Dr. Francis to sit down with Martell and his father. I think that would be a good session, because Martell just like barely scratched the surface with his dad. So that's that. All right, so let's talk about this community event that Kimmie put together. I will say that it was set up to be nice and everything. It looks like the turnout may not have been as good as Kimmie would have wanted, and there could be a lot of reasons for that. Maybe it wasn't advertised in the right places. Maybe it wasn't advertised long enough for more people to hear about it. Maybe she didn't have, the opportunity to be on the radio with Tony Terrell and talk about her event or whatever. Maybe she didn't seek out those opportunities. Maybe she didn't have time for those opportunities. There's a lot of reasons why an event doesn't turn out the way you think it's going to turn out regarding turnout. That's interesting. But for Mel to be so nasty about it, nasty? No, not even nice. For Mel to be so nasty about it and basically say, well, because the Holtz name wasn't on it, this event didn't turn out the way that it was supposed to turn out. Oh, look, all these vendors are here and nobody's here. You showed up when everybody was was closing down. The food trucks were packing up. They were taking down tents. You showed up 10 minutes before the end of the event and then had the nerve to say something about attendance. So I think it's twofold. First off, you showed up at the wrong time when the thing was almost over. So that's number one. And number two, you're being nasty about it. And while, again, I agree with Mel when she says they need to vote if the comeback group name is going to be mentioned, it's not a real show of support to show up 10 minutes before an event is over. Yeah, it's not a real, and then for them to show up in t-shirts for her skincare line. I just really have a problem with Mel feeling like everybody else in the comeback group is riding on the Holtz coattails. And the problem I have with that is that you're so into talking about uplifting the community, doing community service, being presenting a better representation of Huntsville, but you don't want your friends who are business people, who are educated people, to be lifted up with you as you lift up the community. Because Tisha, Maurice, Marcel, and Kimmie are also part of the community. And if you lend your likeness to the comeback group, you're not just helping the community through doing events and building houses. You're helping these two other couples to build their reputation in the city as well. So I don't want to make it sound like, the two, sets of Scots are charity cases, because they're definitely not. But if you're going to uplift the community, you can bring your friends with you and you can lift them up and not feel like that they're dragging on your coattails, but feeling like, okay, we're lending our name to this. We are helping to legitimize them so that as all of us grow together, we become more empowered. And so I just feel like Mel's attitude towards the whole thing is just so nasty. And I think it's one thing for her to be okay with, I think it's okay for her not to be want to be a part of the comeback group, but it's another thing to be so nasty about feeling and saying that the other members of the group really don't add much value. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let me tell y'all something. Martell Holt is one of the most confusing people that I have ever heard of. This man, before the other people came to the comeback group meeting, told Mel, well, we're going to tell them about dissolving it and getting our company's name off of it. They can have it. They can be the comeback group. The rest of the comeback group comes into the meeting. They talk about the original intended purpose of being inspirational to the community, building up and lifting up the community. And his mind changes. Before they go for a vote, he takes Mel out of the room to have a discussion, which I think actually was a little bit of a power move, but whatever. They have a conversation and his mind is changed. And to be fair, Mel has always said, for the majority of the time that we have known the comeback group, that she wants to dissolve it. So for them to be on the same page before the rest of them came in, and then for him to flip the switch in the middle of the meeting, I agree. And I can understand, rather, instead of agreeing, I understand why she was confused and upset that he had changed his mind so quickly. So I get that, because I felt like that change was just like a flip of the switch. He just he just changed his mind all of a sudden. And then the fact that he feels like Mel needed to be on the same page with him once he changed his mind, it was odd. It was a clear disagreement. And once again, I got to give Tisha credit where credit is due. She was like, okay, y'all, we got to go. Once Mel and Martell started arguing, and whether that's conflict avoidance or whether she is like reading the room, knowing that they don't need to be in there, I think she did a great job. And now we have Mel and Martell sitting down arguing, saying, he's like, well, when I say that we're going to do this, you need to just hop on board with me. And Mel just doesn't want to do that. And she's like, we don't even know which direction our marriage is going to go. How can we make a big decision about the comeback group? Kind of. So, like I said, the comeback group needs to be one big collective. They can use the name. They can support each other's events as long as they have approval from the other members of the group or majority of the members from the group. And that they need to just do their own thing under those umbrellas. And so that way you have 3 different couples all doing things. You expand your reach. And when somebody wants to jump in and collaborate with you, great. If Mel wants to collaborate with Kimmie on something and they do something, or if all the 3 men want to get together and do something, they can, and they can put the comeback group's name on it. I mean, come on. It's not super hard, right? Anyways, y'all, that disagreement that they had between them just shows that they really aren't as over the hump as he thought they were. And they're going to need a lot more work. But what I will say is I think that Mel is still so hurt that she's still trying to punish him. And like he said, he's kind of over being in the doghouse. And you can never tell anybody how to heal, how to act, how to feel when you have betrayed them. But I do think that if she tries to punish him too hard and pushes him too hard, that he may just leave voluntarily. And I don't think that that's what she wants. I think right now she knows that she has him by the balls and that she is holding all of the cards. And he doesn't like that because he's used to kind of being in charge and the head of his household. And he's now kind of handed, the ball is in Mel's court, divorce court. And so I think that Mel is playing hardball, and that if she doesn't really fully commit to making a decision about whether she wants to get a divorce or whether she wants to work on their marriage, that Martell is not going to be comfortable living in limbo. All right, y'all, that is it for now. Like I said, this episode wasn't very eventful. I guess I had a little bit more to talk about than I thought originally. But thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And peace out, home slices.